Chapter 1: Crimson Dust. The wind howled a mournful dirge, whipping crimson dust into a frenzy. It clawed at exposed skin, gritty and unforgiving, a constant reminder of Xylos' wrath. 6 months since the mining collapse, 6 months since the planet turned against them. Elara Vance, her face etched with weariness, shielded her eyes, the setting sun painting the jagged canyons in hues of blood orange. The remains of the mining colony huddled like wounded animals, a testament to humanity's hubris. Elara adjusted the worn strap of her satchel, its contents, precious seeds, and meticulously catalogued plant samples, her only comfort in this desolate landscape. She'd lost everything in the collapse: her family, her home, her research facility, everything but her unwavering belief in the resilience of life, both human and Xylosian. A harsh voice cut through the wind's roar. "Vance! Still clinging to those weeds?" Jax, a former mining foreman, his face a roadmap of scars, approached. His eyes, usually hard and calculating, held a flicker of something akin to concern. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. Elara straightened, her gaze unflinching. "They're not weeds, Jax. They're the only chance we have." Jax scoffed, his hand resting on the worn grip of his salvaged blaster. "Chance? We need food, water, shelter, not some pretty flowers that'll wither in this damn dust bowl." He gestured to the crumbling structures around them. "Spend your time on things that matter." "They do matter, Jax," Elara retorted, her voice rising above the wind. "These plants, they might be the key to cleaning this toxic air." Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the canyons. A monstrous dust devil, larger than any they'd seen before, materialized on the horizon, a swirling vortex of red fury. "Damn it!" Jax shouted, shoving Elara behind a crumbling wall. "Scatter!" Panic erupted. Figures, silhouetted against the swirling dust, scrambled for cover. A desperate cry cut through the chaos. "Help!" Elara saw a group of scavengers, their meager supplies scattered by the wind, trapped in the path of the approaching behemoth. One young woman, barely more than a girl, fought to stand against the brutal gusts, her face a mask of terror. Jax hesitated, his gaze shifting between the dust devil and the trapped scavengers. Then, with a grunt, he moved, his blaster held ready. "Stay here," he barked at Elara, before disappearing into the swirling dust. Elara's heart hammered against her ribs. She watched, helpless, as Jax and the other survivors fought against the elements. But even in the face of this overwhelming force, a spark of hope flickered within her. These tenacious plants, and the equally resilient spirit of humankind, might yet prevail. As the dust devil passed, leaving behind a trail of destruction, a figure emerged from the chaos, a young woman, battered but alive, clutching a damaged piece of salvaged equipment. It was Kaya, a mechanic Elara had only heard whispers about, resourceful, independent, and seemingly immune to the despair that had consumed the colony. An unexpected, and possibly crucial, addition to her team. Chapter 2: Whispers of Green. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and despair, a suffocating blanket clinging to the ravaged hydroponics bay that served as Elara's makeshift laboratory. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with the dust mote swirling in the weak airflow. Elara hunched over a workbench, her brow furrowed in concentration, carefully examining a sample of the resilient Xylosian plant. Its leaves, a vibrant emerald green against the backdrop of crimson dust, held a strange luminescence. "Still at it?" Jax's voice, gruff and skeptical, broke the silence. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, a picture of weary cynicism. Elara looked up, a small, tired smile touching her lips. "It's more than just resilient, Jax. Look at this." She pointed to a microscopic image projected onto a cracked screen. "The way it processes the toxic compounds, it's almost too efficient." Jax snorted. "Efficient at what? Turning dust into more dust?" "No," Elara insisted, her voice gaining strength. "At purifying it. At breaking down the toxins. Imagine if we could cultivate this plant on a larger scale." Suddenly, Kaya, the young mechanic from the dust storm, entered, her face smudged with grease, her eyes bright with a surprising enthusiasm. "I found something in the wreckage near where we found those plants," she announced, holding up a small, intricately carved device, partially buried in the dust. "Looks ancient, but the power cell is still intact." Jax's skepticism momentarily faltered. "Ancient? What do you mean?" Kaya explained that the device wasn't just an artifact, it seemed to be a kind of data storage unit. She had managed to partially power it using scavenged components, and now, an image flickered on the cracked screen, a schematic of a highly advanced terraforming system, far beyond anything humanity possessed. The schematic was overlaid on a map of Xylos. Elara gasped. This isn't just a plant. It's part of a system. A system designed to cleanse the atmosphere." Jax frowned. "A system that's apparently malfunctioned spectacularly." He paused, his gaze shifting from the schematic to the resilient plants. "So, these weeds are a key part of some ancient terraforming project?" "Exactly," Elara said, a thrill running through her. "It explains their efficiency, their almost unnatural resilience. They're not just surviving, they're meant to thrive and restore balance." Hope, a rare and precious commodity in these desperate times, bloomed within her. But the realization of the scale of the task ahead, repairing a planet-wide terraforming system with scavenged parts and a handful of survivors, weighed heavily on her heart. The whispers of green held a promise, but also a chilling revelation. Their survival depended not just on their tenacity but also on uncovering the secrets of a long-lost civilization. And time, as always, was their most precious and dwindling resource. Chapter 3, Canyon Run. The crimson canyons loomed, jagged teeth against a bruised sky. Elara, Jax, and Kaya, an unlikely trio forged in the crucible of Xylos's wrath, prepared for their perilous journey. Their objective, to reach a remote area identified in the ancient schematic where a larger concentration of the resilient plants was believed to exist. Elara adjusted the straps of her heavy pack, its weight a physical manifestation of the responsibility she carried. "Kaya, are you sure your repairs hold?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. The ancient device, now their guide, was only partially functional. Kaya, ever pragmatic, gave a confident nod. "It'll hold, but it'll be a rough ride. I'm not sure how much longer the power cell will last." Jax, ever the pragmatist, grumbled, "We should be focusing on scavenging for food, not chasing some fairy tale about ancient plants." Yet a flicker of something akin to excitement flickered in his eyes. His past as a xenoarchaeologist was slowly re-emerging, a hidden passion rekindled by the discovery of the ancient technology. Their journey was a brutal ballet of survival. The canyons, a maze of razor-sharp rock formations and treacherous ravines, seemed to conspire against them. The wind howled, whipping sand into their faces, obscuring their vision. The ground beneath their feet was treacherous, littered with loose rocks and hidden crevices. Suddenly, a guttural shriek tore through the silence. A creature, a grotesque amalgamation of Xylosian fauna warped by the ecological collapse, emerged from the shadows, a six-legged monstrosity with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes. "What in the hell?" Jax exclaimed, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster. Kaya reacted swiftly, firing a burst of energy from her makeshift pulse rifle. The creature snarled, its hide surprisingly resistant, before lunging towards them. Jax engaged in a desperate melee, his movements honed by years of experience in the unforgiving mines. Elara, meanwhile, used her knowledge of the terrain, leading them through a narrow passage, barely escaping the creature's grasp. The narrow escape left them shaken but undeterred. As they continued their perilous journey, a sudden rockslide sent a cascade of rock and dust tumbling down the canyon wall, directly in their path. Jax pushed Elara and Kaya to safety, but was himself separated from the others, swallowed by the dust and debris. Elara screamed Jax's name, her heart pounding with fear and guilt. She knew the danger was far from over. The canyon had tested their physical resilience, now it was testing their resolve and their hope for survival. The ancient device beeped urgently, highlighting a previously obscured passage, a hidden pathway revealing itself only after the rockslide. Their fate, it seemed, rested on the secrets buried within Xylos itself. And the discovery of that hidden pathway gave them a reason to keep going, a new reason to hope. Chapter 4: Beneath the Crimson Sands. Kaya coughed, spitting out dust as she stumbled into a cavern hidden behind the rock slide. The air here was surprisingly clean, a stark contrast to the toxic dust outside. The walls shimmered with an ethereal luminescence, revealing intricate carvings depicting strange, almost alien flora and fauna. In the center of the cavern, partially buried beneath the rubble, lay a structure that pulsed with a faint, inner light. "What is this place?" Elara whispered, awestruck by the alien beauty of the hidden chamber. Kaya, ever practical, approached the structure cautiously. "It's some kind of power source. Advanced tech, way beyond anything I've ever seen." She pointed to a small, damaged control panel. "The power cell is almost depleted, but I think I can jury-rig something to get a temporary boost." While Kaya worked tirelessly, repairing the device's power cell using scavenged parts, Elara examined the carvings. They seemed to depict a history of Xylos, a civilization that thrived before the ecological collapse, a civilization that understood and respected the planet's delicate balance, a civilization that had created this very terraforming system. Suddenly, the ancient device sputtered to life. A low hum filled the cavern, intensifying until it resonated through Elara's very bones. Images flickered on a cracked screen, not just the terraforming schematic, but also fragmented scenes of this advanced civilization, their technology, their reverence for nature. It was a breathtaking glimpse into a lost world, and it confirmed their earlier suspicions. "The dust storms, they weren't natural," Elara said, her voice trembling with the weight of the revelation. "The terraforming system, it's malfunctioning. That's why the planet is dying." Kaya nodded, her face pale with the sudden realization. "And that means the plants aren't just resilient, they are designed to counteract the effects of the malfunction." She pointed to a section of the schematic that now glowed brightly on the screen. "We need to reach this location, and fast. It's the core component. If we can repair it, we might have a chance." But before they could continue the discussion, a series of sharp beeps filled the cavern, followed by static. Then, a faint signal cut through, the voice of Jax distorted and weak. "Kaya, Elara, help, trapped, cave in." The weight of Jax's words landed heavily on them. Their individual survival was now tied inextricably to his, and the discovery of the ancient technology had given them not only a chance to save the planet, but also a chance to save their comrade. The vibrant luminescence of the cavern suddenly felt less like hope and more like an immense responsibility. The path to restoration was fraught with danger, but it was a path they would follow to its end, whether to save a world or a friend. Chapter 5: Repairing the Sky. The makeshift biodome, a hastily constructed refuge amidst the ruins of the old research facility, pulsed with a nervous energy. Elara, Kaya, and a battered, dust-covered Jax worked feverishly, the ancient device humming at the center of their frantic efforts. Jax, rescued from the cave-in, was recovering, but his injuries, both physical and emotional, were evident. The weight of his past actions, his role in the mining disaster, hung heavily upon him. "The core component, it's damaged beyond repair," Kaya announced, her voice strained with fatigue. She pointed to the schematic, highlighting a crucial section of the ancient device that was beyond salvaging. "We need a replacement, and we need it now." Elara's heart sank. Their hopes of repairing the planet hung precariously on the brink of failure. But before despair could take root, a thought struck her. "Remember the ancient carvings? The plants, they might hold the key." The ancient device, now partially repaired thanks to Kaya's ingenuity, could analyze the genetic structure of the plants. Elara and Kaya worked tirelessly, extracting genetic material and feeding it into the ancient device. Jax, though weak, contributed his expertise, identifying parallels between the plant's genetic code and the damaged core component. It was a race against time, fueled by adrenaline and desperation. As they worked, the ground began to tremble. A monstrous dust storm, far larger and more ferocious than any they'd encountered before, was approaching, its swirling red tendrils reaching towards their precarious refuge. The ancient device sputtered, threatened by the sudden power surge. "We have to hurry!" Kaya yelled over the howling wind, her fingers flying across the control panel. Jax, despite his injuries, joined their efforts, his expertise proving invaluable in navigating the complex systems of the ancient technology. His guilt seemed to fuel him, driving him to make amends for his past mistakes. With a final, desperate surge of energy, the device whirred to life. The newly synthesized core component, crafted using the genetic material of the Xylosian plants, was successfully installed. A beam of pure, white light shot from the device towards the storm clouds above. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. The dust storm, monstrous and relentless moments before, began to dissipate. The crimson sky above cleared, revealing a faint, hopeful glimmer of starlight. The air, once thick with toxic dust, became noticeably cleaner. A profound silence descended, broken only by the soft whirring of the ancient device and the ragged breaths of the exhausted team. They had done it. Against all odds, they had achieved the impossible, restoring balance to a dying planet, saving not only their own lives, but also potentially the fate of humankind's presence on Xylos. But the sense of accomplishment was tempered by the understanding that their work was far from over. The long road to complete restoration lay ahead, and the mystery of the ancient civilization that had created this technology remained unsolved, waiting for future explorations. The future looked bright, but also filled with further adventures. Chapter 6: Seeds of Renewal. The crimson dust, once a suffocating blanket, now settled gently, a fine red powder coating the landscape like a blush of dawn. The air, once thick with toxins, was fresh and clean, carrying the faint scent of unfamiliar blossoms. The sun, a pale disk in the newly clear sky, cast long shadows across the recovering landscape. The biodome stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Elara, Jax, and Kaya emerged from the biodome, their faces etched with exhaustion but radiant with a newfound hope. The transformation was astounding. The barren, desolate landscape was slowly coming alive. New plant life, vibrant and vigorous, pushed through the soil, a testament to the success of their efforts. "It's working," Kaya whispered, her voice choked with emotion. She pointed towards the distant canyons, where the harsh, red rocks were now softened by the burgeoning green of newly revived flora. Jax, his face bearing the marks of his ordeal, but his eyes reflecting a quiet sense of redemption, nodded slowly. "We did it." His voice, though still rough, held a note of profound satisfaction. The guilt that had haunted him seemed to have finally lifted, replaced by a quiet pride. Elara, her gaze sweeping across the slowly revitalizing landscape, felt a wave of emotion wash over her, relief, joy, and a profound sense of responsibility. They had saved the colony, but the work was far from over. The ancient civilization's terraforming system was functioning, but the long process of ecological restoration lay ahead, requiring constant monitoring and care. "This isn't the end," Elara said, her voice firm and resolute. "It's a new beginning." She gestured towards the thriving plants. "These plants, they're not just a means to an end. They're a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even on a dying planet, life finds a way." Jack smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "A new beginning. And this time," he added, his gaze meeting Elara's, "we'll do it right." Kaya, her face smeared with dust and grime but her eyes shining with determination, nodded in agreement. "Right. We'll build a colony that respects Xylos, not one that exploits it." As they stood amidst the burgeoning life, a shared understanding passed between them. Their journey had been fraught with danger and hardship, but it had also revealed the incredible resilience of humanity, the power of cooperation, and the profound connection between humanity and the world it sought to inhabit. They had repaired the sky, but they had also repaired a fractured community and a frayed spirit. The seeds of renewal had been planted, not just on Xylos, but within their hearts. And as the sun set, casting a golden glow on the revitalizing landscape, they looked towards a future, uncertain yet hopeful, where the lessons learned on this harsh alien world would guide their path, a path forged through resilience and guided by ecological wisdom. The whispers of green had evolved into a powerful anthem of hope.